Well, look, let's talk about this with Baroness Claire Falk. She's an independent peer and director of the Academy of Ideas. Good afternoon to you, Claire.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, you've just heard those clips, no doubt. You might have heard the Prime Minister earlier. He was supposed to be giving a speech about unity and helping deprived communities. I mean, although, again, less than £1 billion for the whole country. I mean, no offence to Prime Minister, but that's not really going to touch the sides of that issue. He had a lot to say on other things, but I've got to be honest with you, we didn't take that bit live because we've heard it a million times before. Although, frankly, I think we'd heard millions times before what he said in his comments about Mandelson. But basically, you know, he didn't know. Well, if he'd known then what he knows now, he would have appointed
a convicted paedophile, but also somebody who has got nothing to do with the British state. That in and of itself is one part of the scandal. And in a way, that is the shocking part of the scandal. What he did know, of course, was that Peter Mandelson was a bit of a chancer who was very attracted to powerful men, people and money, and that he had therefore got himself into hot water previously. He also knew that he was still in touch with and friendly with, at whatever level, Jeffrey Epstein, who was associated with this vile sexual abuse and trafficking of particularly young girls and women.
Yeah.
So, but there's two parts of the scandal, and what was confusing today was that he was sort of apologising to the victims, not acknowledging that this was a complete breach of state secrets that Mandelson did.
Yeah.
But the reason why we need to understand this is because this was somebody who, if he didn't know he was doing that, he should have known, or it should have been investigated. And secondly, that he overlooked what are huge character flaws in this character for entirely opportunistic, pragmatic, transactional reasons. Oh, it might work. So what it reveals to me, apart from anything else, is that Keir Starmer is not a man of principle, because you can have campaign against violence against women and girls. You can stand up and talk about how you're going to reduce it by 50%, and at the same time think, yeah, but it's probably worth the risk of putting Mandelson in that job. Let's just kind of brush over that. And at the same time, by the way, try and avoid the big shocking scandal, which I really, really wish Starmer was being held to account of, which is, of course, the grooming gang.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, he issued this apology to Epstein's victims, his concern about violence against women and girls, and yet, you know, people like you and me calling for a public inquiry, we were just far-right jumpers on bandwagons, weren't we?
Exactly. And still, even though they've announced the public inquiry, none is forthcoming.
Yeah.
You know, it's been all gone eerily quiet. And so I think that, I suppose it will have some irritation with this story. It's that I, of course, think that Keir Starmer is not fit to govern in many ways, but I almost don't want him to go on this. I mean, there's so many reasons why he's not fit to govern. And even as you just pointed out, he was doing this sort of worthy talk about bringing communities to life and the high street and this government has destroyed communities and the high street and betrayed them. And I can't bear that he did that speech this morning saying, look, I want to talk about what I'm really doing really brilliantly. Well, I'm sorry, but you destroyed hospitality industries. Through not emphasising the importance of integration, by not dealing with illegal migration and also the preferential treatment too often given to illegal migrants in terms of homes
Claire,
and housing.
He's got
destroying communities.
We didn't take this bit of the speech because, I like my audience too much, but just to give a taste, and you'll see why you're implicated. He said, we've got to reverse the devastating decline in our communities. Did you say? I mean, like, who did that? We've got to give power, agency and control to the very people who want to improve their community. I mean, local elections would be nice in every area. That's not happening. This is what our Pride in Place programme is about, because pride is the social glue, the force that holds together a community and a country. Any country that cannot keep its high streets alive, its bills down and its people feeling respected will struggle to meet the test of our times. So we must strengthen our society because it is vital for the future of this country. I mean, that's just meaningless twaddle. And then he did say earlier, he goes, Britain is the greatest country in the world, stronger as a tolerant, decent and respectful country. And he says that the country has been undermined by those who seek to sow division. Britain has been undermined by political neglect. He also has a go at the Tories and, of course, at reform. like, but this is the thing. I mean, you know, the problem is you sowing division. It's not the problem of what's actually being done in terms of the government.
Absolutely right to emphasise the local elections. I was just about to say that. I mean, here we are in a situation where it says we're empowering local communities, except we're denying millions of people, and I can't believe there isn't more of a scandal about this, denying millions of people their democratic right to vote. In some instances, that will mean that for 7 years, local councillors will not have been held to account. And local people cannot be empowered by Keir Starmer making a speech or by, you know, a little bit of money thrown at them, but by actually having the capacity to control what happens locally. And even when he says we're giving more power to local areas, he means local councils. He doesn't mean local people, because when local people organise and express their frustration at maybe, I don't know, an asylum hotel in the local area, frustration at the levels of crime not being tackled and so on, when those things are expressed, those people are accused of divisive rhetoric, of stirring things up, and very often are in fact demonised in such a way that I would accuse the Prime Minister of being divisive, because he is the one who points the finger at people and says they are the bad guys. And very often they are local people simply expressing concern about the degeneration of their local area.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt at all about that. But you mentioned, again, something we haven't spent much time on today, although we have over the last few days, Peter Mandelson, you know, the implications in terms of the giving financial secrets, misconduct in public office. This was the reason, this was also talked about in the speech today by Keir Starmer, the reason why he desperately wants to publish all these documents in relation to the decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as our ambassador in Washington. But the police have advised, because there's an investigation into these allegations of misconduct in public office, he can't publish everything. But of course, what you knew at the time about Peter Mandelson's relationship with Epstein is neither here nor there to those allegations, I would have thought, which is rather misleading. But the key issue here then has been about choosing to bleat on about being moral and a good person, going on about you want to tackle violence against women and girls, this plan to halve violence against women and girls during his time in office, not agreeing to the grooming gang inquiry, national inquiry, and still nothing actually happening in relation to that all these years on, and appointing a man who was an apologist and a close friend of a paedophile, and it was known at the time. None of this is ringing very true. Let's have another listen to a clip of what the Prime Minister had to say about, I think he thinks this is vetting of Mandelson, but have a listen to what he had to say here.
Before he was appointed ambassador, Mandelson was asked directly about the nature of his relationship with Epstein. He was asked whether he had stayed at Epstein after his conviction. He was asked whether he had accepted gifts and hospitality, about whether he had been fully transparent about the relationship. He portrayed Epstein as someone he barely knew. And when that became clear, and it was not true, I sacked him.
Well, that's obviously Claire Falk's supposed to sound like, well, I was very decisive. But bearing in mind, this is a man who is a trained barrister. He's Casey. He was Director of Public Prosecutions. This is a man, you also know, he's got that legal, forensic mind. He was apparently incredibly shocked that a man who was proven on many, many occasions to be a known liar had lied to him.
I think this is an extraordinary part of this story. It's a bit like, are you or have you ever been a mass murderer, a drug dealer, or, all those daft questions that you get in a way, which is you just go, no, never done that. I mean, with the idea that you're going to go, yes, by the way, I've been giving away state secrets to him and I've known him really well and I've been staying in his house. And by the way, we're really good mates. I mean, that's not going to happen. And any cross-examining barrister would know that, the way to the truth, you might ask, but you might not believe. And when he then says, so I was totally shocked.
Yes.
The one caveat I've got on the demands for transparency and to see the vetting notes, by the way, is I think that, Kemi Badenoch is kind of like jumping on, rather enjoying herself.
She said today, she said, Keir Starmer's position is clearly untenable.
Yeah, but she's demanding everything is out in the open and we have full transparency. I do actually think that's a slightly dangerous situation to be in. I don't think that all vetting notes need to be in public.
No.
I do actually think the state should have some secrets,
Yes.
behind the scenes. I don't think that anyone is ever appointed to anything, that all of their everything about them should be revealed. What we need to be in a position is that somebody is properly vetted, not asked a few awkward questions so they can lie, properly vetted behind the scenes, that then the Prime Minister reads that vetting and says, I am now going to take a decision based on having read that vetting, right? If then he decides to take the risk, the Adam Bolton point, then he is responsible for that person being who he was when he was made the ambassador to America, right?
Yeah.
The vetting was done. He decided to take a risk. We can say it was the wrong decision, but what we don't want is to say, we want to see your jottings. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's already the case that the government are in a situation, or, it's become fashionable to say that privacy is it doesn't matter what you know about people. If everything about you was put in the public place,
very few of us would
by
want
the
that.
state,
Yeah.
we would be all saying, I don't want them to know every single thing.
No, but
about
also
me.
other people wouldn't come forward in public life. I mean, he brought this on himself. But in terms of the decision by Labour MPs, led by Angela Rayner, putting the knife in the front, not even the back, saying basically, the argument was basically, we do not trust that the government number 10, the cabinet secretary, or the chief of staff could be in charge of what is and what is not needed to be redacted for security reasons, national security reasons. So they basically said it should go to the Intelligence Security Committee, and this is, of course, a crossbench group of MPs who have full security clearance. They can look at this stuff and they can say, they've already said, we want to have full disclosure. But we can trust them, can we not?
Yeah, but Angela Rayner pulled a blinder. But I'm still making the point. This wouldn't be the scandal and the absolute firestorm it is for Keir Starmer if he was a wonderful Prime Minister. And what's happened is this has given cover to all those MPs who want to actually say he should go anyway, right? And so in some ways, I simply want proper political accountability for all the things this government has done. And I hate to go on about it, but it's just that I think that by saying this is the main scandal, I mean, I think probably, by the way, Nigel Farage is right to say it's, the greatest political scandal of 100 years. But there is just something wrong with the fact that this government has actually been involved in a wide range of proper scandals, of cover-ups, of actually destroying the livelihoods of ordinary people, of effectively telling us mistruths. The Employment Rights Bill is all about workers' rights. Well, actually, it's going to destroy many jobs in this country. The national insurance contributions are destroying people. And I want us not to forget why it is that we want to see the back of Starmer and not just get caught up in the fashionable scandal of the day.
I completely agree. I don't think for a moment this is like the biggest, worst scandal of, this is about pointing someone who was friends with someone who's, okay, but it turns out, again, if there are allegations that are contained in the Epstein files about, basically giving away, confidential information, that's absolutely a scandal. But again, Keir Starmer, this is entirely a making of his own of his own property. This could have had nothing to do with him or the British government or the British, the state of Britain. We wouldn't because it wasn't our problem, because it was something that happened a long time ago and nothing to do with him. And that just shows how bad he is. I think it would just be. I think you're right. I think it's be the straw that breaks the camel back. That is not the reason why he's the most unpopular Prime Minister ever. That's not the reason why he can't get a single bit of legislation through unless all his backbenchers agree. It's not why he's facing leadership challenges. Why he's just absolutely on the back foot. And I don't know how many more resets. What was this speech today? This was bound to be one of those, what are we in, phase 47 by now of this Labour government? We're only 18 months in. The whole thing's an absolute disaster. But if you had to make a prediction, and I know a lot of people don't like doing this, how long do you think he's still in office for? Do you think he lasts till after the local elections?
Well, he's so impervious to criticism that if he would, even the way he did that speech today, I know he was shaking yesterday in Parliament, but the audacity of coming out and saying, I'm the good guy who's trying to do things for communities, and you lot are being distracted by the evil Peter Mandelson. I just thought, show a little bit of humility. Yeah. But in other words, he's capable of staying as long as he possibly can until actually actively members of his own party deal with him. I did want to say one thing, just because I'm preoccupied with it and the Lords myself, which is, I think it's a scandal that the Prime Minister promised a celebrity, Esther Ranson, that he'd get a bill through, which he then didn't have the courage to put through himself, gave it as a private member's bill, has given it a lot. This is the assisted dying bill. I don't care what side you're on that. It is not up to the Prime Minister to promise his celebrity chums. I mean, this is. I'm with you all the way.
No, our laws now are made either because a celebrity is involved, or even like spending on healthcare, whether celebrity is involved or whether you have a grieving parent. I don't think either is a good way to make a law. Thank you so much. Always so good to talk to you. I'm so glad you're in the House of Lords. The amount of times she's the only person talking sense on any topic. Baroness Claire Fox, independent, absolutely in her soul of souls, independent peer and director of the Academy of Ideas. Thank you for that.